Oh, yeah. Friday. Yeah. Yeah, AJ Walt's been doing, he did that, and he's been doing our Music on the River simulcast. He does a great job. Yeah. I'm glad they got to do it. Yeah. Exactly. They can all be that short. They're way too long. There's sometimes it's like never ending.
Well, you know, that might be the new normal.
I mean, yeah.
You might be ahead of me now.
Yeah. Only do things when they're necessary, do them as short as possible. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. No. Not bad at all.
Just want to let everybody know that we are live right now on the YouTube channel. But I will add to that, we do want to wait a few more seconds and see if we can get one of our board members, Kevin Schaefer, is supposed to be here. He's not quite here yet. So we'll wait a little bit for him. So yes, Brian, take your seat.
April coming tonight, or is she out too?
April will be out tonight.
Tell you.
And we were having connection issues for everybody watching on YouTube right now. I think we've got those fixed. If not, you might see some connectivity issues. So you could see some increased buffering, but hopefully that'll be kept to a minimum. I think we do have that under control. You'll leave him upstairs?
Well, it was a good day today. It wasn't too hot.
Yes. I can hear you better.
It's gonna be bad tomorrow.
Is Schaefer coming?
Yes.
Yeah, I just texted them.
I'll move down so we can spread out more up here.
Today was gonna be the best day out, and they're supposed to turn up to 90. The heat's supposed to get, humidity's what's so bad.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes it. Messmer's got that deceptively deep voice, like the Grinch. I got a review of your Grinch performance, Messmore, from
Text back.
Justin Moore. Justin said you did a great job.
Dustin watched it?
He heard you sing Grinch
Oh,
on Christmas.
that's quite a compliment coming from an accomplished professional.
I totally agree.
We can put it up on the big screen for everybody's enjoyment if you like.
Oh, we need to put that on the city YouTube channel. Everybody would
agree.
enjoy that. If you've not heard Brian Messmore sing You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch, he's got the video on his phone. Corner him after this meeting's over and grab that.
Right now.
I'd probably have to get some technical assistance for that.
I was told that I'm supposed to ask you about some evil baby in your truck.
Oh, yeah,
Evil baby.
yeah.
haven't
That's for
gotten rid
another
of-
time.
You haven't gotten rid of that yet?
No, I think about it every once in a while.
And you want me to ride around with you?
No, I don't. That's why I go the other way when we go
I'm
places.
thinking second.
He
That's
hasn't-
why I go over the hill instead of down here.
He hasn't read it yet, so whatever you want to do with your phone.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission meeting for July the 13th, 2020, 4:30 p.m. Can we get a roll call, Ms. Brookbank?
Executive Director Brian Messmore,
Here.
President Richard Richardson,
Present.
Vice President Lenny Fryman,
Here.
Secretary Kevin Schaefer is absent, Member April French absent, Member Brian Johnson,
Present.
Lawrenceburg School Board Member Brian Jansen is absent, and City Attorney Del Weldon.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum, so we'll continue to move forward. If everybody's had a chance to review the minutes from the previous meeting, I'll accept a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion.
Do Lenny. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any announcements for this evening?
Do you want to, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, do we need to approve the work session? Or not?
Oh, yes, we
The
should.
approval of all minutes if you would like.
Let me get a second approval for the Lawrenceburg Redevelopment Commission work session that was held on June 17th, 2020 at 4:30 PM. Have a motion. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Do we have any additional announcements, Brian?
I do not have any additional announcements for this evening.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to the financial report. Kelly, can you enlighten us?
Yes. As of July 7th, the balance for redevelopment is $2,565,932.30. And after monies committed towards projects, it's $1,528,746.70.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to new business, and I'll throw that over to Director Messmore.
Well, I would like to invite Kathleen up here from Urban Fast Forward, and she will, or we will have a discussion on what's been going on. Here comes Kevin.
All right,
Kevin's
we'll
in the
make note,
house.
Kevin has arrived at 4:35 PM. We held off for a little bit, so we've not done much yet.
3 minutes.
You didn't miss anything.
If you don't object to approval of the minutes, you're good to go.
Okay, we're good.
All right. So as you want to just come on up, Kathleen, and
Thank you.
let us know what's going on and what you think we're in store for.
Okay, cool. We have been, certainly, this is the most interesting start we've ever had to a project. We've never had to start one in quarantine before. We've never had to start one in a global pandemic. And I would be misinforming you if I didn't say it slowed us down a little bit, but not entirely. And the start to any project, as you would understand, is a discovery phase. And we usually anticipate that that'll take about 90 days. In this case, it's probably going to take us maybe a few days longer. But we, in the discovery phase, we reviewed previous reports, which date back close to about 20 years. And I asked this to Brian, and he couldn't tell me, but when was Melvin Gabbard mayor?
Wasn't in here, but
Well, you
Melvin
just need
Gabbard
to
was mayor from
find
96.
ya. If you can. My eyes aren't that
1996
good.
until 2000.
Okay, well, I think the oldest report I read was one when Melvin Gabbard was mayor. There were four. There was one that was that one, which was about Main Street. There was one that UC did. There was, of course, the Hyatt Palmer report, and then there was the Structure Point report. And in addition, we have been talking to a wide variety of folks. We try to move around very quietly in the beginning before people know who we are so that we can get some candid input in some cases. I have eaten in a lot of your restaurants, including Howie's, which I think is my favorite. Not that some of the others aren't really great, but I happen to love gas station diners, so I have been quietly visiting stores and restaurants, and we have also been visiting neighboring communities and trying to learn about them. In Indiana and some of the closer ones in Ohio that are competitors. And when we get to the recruiting phase, we never go into a community and ask somebody to move to our community, but we always are interested to hear if they might be looking for a second location. So we're looking for, starting to develop a list of opportunities that we want to discuss with people. We also look at current conditions. We're doing a gap analysis, what's missing. One of the #1 things that we think Main Street is missing is businesses that support daily needs. There's just not much reason to come downtown on a regular basis. And what tells us that people are willing to do that is the butcher shop, which is doing great business. So people are willing to come down for something they need on a regular basis if it's special. You can buy meat at Kroger. You can get that product, but you can get it better and in a really lovely, friendly environment in that butcher shop. So when we look at the butcher shop, when we look at the framery, when we look at the businesses that you have here that are important assets in the community, we also look at what will support them. What would be a good neighbor for the butcher, which would bring people down that, for that business who might then go to the butcher. When I talked to Mary Helen at the framery, she regretted the loss of White Barn because that shared a customer base with her. So we're looking for how we support the existing businesses, because these are the people who have believed in our community and continue to, and we want to figure out not only what we want to add, but what we want to add that will be, which will augment them. A lot of what we discovered, a lot of what we have discovered through our work is also in those reports dating back somewhere to 1996. There are many times when things are repeated. This is there's a SWOT, a strength, weakness, opportunities, threats analysis in one of those reports. And the strengths page, the weaknesses page, the opportunities page, the threats page probably aren't that much different than what I would hear from you if we were doing a similar analysis today. So, two things then. A lot of what's in those reports is underway. The Civic Park is a great example. I think the butcher shop and the need for businesses that serve daily needs is in one of the reports. So the butcher shop builds on that. There's a lot of work being done on the riverfront, which is what the Structure Point report is about. But a lot of what's in those reports isn't underway. And that actually is what makes Urban Fast Forward different, because we're going to do a lot of the same research. We're going to do it up to the present day. We might do it from an angle that is more specific to our approach. But I can't tell you, I mean, the maps that we will make, they will be maps that will be current, but they're not going to look a whole lot different as a map from what you had before. What makes us different is we take that map and turn it into action. We take those lists and turn it into action. So, and there is nothing wrong with a consultant who just gives you a report, but in our work, we consider a report just a step along the way to the real outcome, which is change. And that's really what makes us different. Our target is change, it's not a report. So, once we move out of this discovery phase, I think the next time I'm here, next quarter or whenever that is, you're all going to say, where are all our businesses? And so I have to say to you now that there is no game changer. There is no single thing. The Civic Park is a great example. That's a tremendous investment in this city. It's beautifully positioned. It's wonderfully finished. It's clearly a big success. It's a piece. There's no one single thing that we're going to do or you're going to do that is going to overnight change our city. But what we're going to do is we're going to just add pieces and pieces and more pieces. And we're going to it's going to take time. And we're going to work block by block. Because if we don't work block by block, we never really get the kind of impact that we need. We can put something down in the 400 block of Walnut Street, but really our focal point right now is the 100 blocks of Walnut Street and High Street. Our focal point is where the city and you made that tremendous investment in the Civic Park, where our nexus of restaurants is, where some of our legacy businesses are that we want to protect. So we start in that block, and then when we get that really underway, we go to the next block and the next block and the next block. And that is not to say that if somebody came to you today with a really good idea and said they wanted to be in the 400 block of Walnut, that you should say no, because of course not. But the reality is, in terms of a focus, we have to focus our fire, and we are going to focus it block by block. And the other game changer that puts Lawrenceburg ahead of, or the other asset that puts Lawrenceburg ahead of many communities is you have resource. And so many surrounding communities don't have resource. You have good leadership. You have a mayor with a vision. You have a redevelopment commission with a vision. You have talented professional staff. And you have the financial resources to invest in getting what you want. And I am never frivolous in spending a client's money. I believe that people should come to us with good plans. They should come to us with a thought-out approach to their business, and they should be putting their own resources on the line. But you are almost among communities of your size uniquely qualified to make investments when you can see that those investments are wise. And we do a lot of work in trying to determine on your behalf that they are wise. We do a lot of work in looking at business plans. We do a lot of work in investigating what we can about what somebody says they've done and what their successes have been and what their genuine skills might be. And we bring to it a certain amount of experience that enables us to say, we think this is a good bet, or we don't think it's a good bet. And we never get to tell you what to do. That is not that's what I always call the consultant's dilemma. We can recommend, but we cannot insist. And we don't even want to insist, but we want to bring experience to you to support you so that when you have to make a decision where you're going to commit some of your resources, you can have the maximum amount of information available to you. And the other thing I would say is there is a scaffolding to a retail district. It is not plug and play. This store moved out, moved this store in, it's all going to be fine. We just need to fill the storefronts. There are all kinds of things that have to work. It's certainly that available resource. It's wayfinding, it's streetscaping, it's parking and parking signage, it's brand alignment. So we are looking at those things as we go along too, so that we can build that scaffolding, because I don't want to bring you retailers and restaurateurs who are only here 2 years or 3 years. We do a lot of 10-year leases, and we want you to have absolute confidence that you can do a 10-year lease, and that you have a reasonable and more than reasonable expectation that you will still be doing business with that tenant in 10 years. Because again, when I went through those reports, what I noticed was a lot of churn amongst the tenants, and that kind of churn is actually destructive to the progress of a city and destructive to the progress of a downtown, because people come someplace because it's where what they want is. And if what they want leaves, they are willing to move their allegiance to another place. So when Mary Helen at the Framery said losing the White Barn, she lost those customers. Those customers followed the White Barn to, I forget where they went, Miamitown? Yeah, so we don't want that. We don't want to lose our retailers. We want them to make a home in Lawrenceburg and stay with us for the long haul. And obviously, that never sticks 100%, but by doing all the supporting work, by putting the scaffolding in place, by looking at what we need to do, then we can pick who it is, what we want them to do, where we want them to be, why we think they'll be a success for us, and when we want them in our our retail district. And, as I said, it's the right combo of product, skills, experience, and capital, and a good fit for the Lawrenceburg brand. And I think this is really as important as anything else. This community has a unique personality. What makes communities like this so appealing is they're not like everything out on Route 50, which is the same. A Dollar General store is a Dollar General store, is a Dollar General store, is a Lowe's, is a Lowe's, is a Home Depot, is a Kroger. People come into our downtown because it's a pleasant experience and a different experience. And we want them to park their car and walk in and out of all of our shops and restaurants, or in and out of a high percentage of them. And that means that we have to understand what our brand is and who our customers are, our customers today and our customers tomorrow, because we're trying to build a future city here. And that is really important. You're building 125 units of housing down the street, which will come online in 2 years. What we put on our downtown, will be important to helping that project attract the residents that it wants, because they will select Lawrenceburg because Lawrenceburg has what they want. It has their coffee shop, it has the yoga studio, it has the little pub, it has the bike paths, it has the farmer's market, it has the meat market, it has the things that make this feel like my place. And this already is a place, and it has a personality, and it has a brand. So we want to build on that and make it stronger and make it more visible, which was another thing that came out in all the reports we viewed. People said this community is effectively hiding its light under a bushel. And I think that's right. I think this is a much stronger community than people realize, but it just doesn't have quite enough visible assets to help it make and close the sales that it wants with the with the people it wants. So that's what we're here to help you do. And that's what we're working on. And questions?
I would just hit on the fact that, one of the things that we had talked about when you and I spoke was to make sure that we're doing the right thing for the city and we're making the positive steps. And I do believe that you and your organization are doing that. And I think you hit on one of the biggest problems that I've seen in the city, which is the churn that you talk about. There's a lot of churn. Businesses come and businesses go. They seem to move pretty quickly. We just undertook a digitization initiative over at the Clerk Treasurer's office, where we went back and we looked at a lot of data with our business licenses. And just the amount of businesses that have come and gone that are on that sheet and then they just left was amazing. So that tells me right off that there is a problem here. How do we get people to come? How do we get people to stay? And I think that's one of the key indicators that you're trying to identify and bring us something back to work on. So I do appreciate that, and I thank you for that. I just wanted to make that comment.
No, they're not businesses that are succeeding don't leave. Businesses that are doing well don't move someplace else. Businesses that are happy with their landlord, happy with their community, happy with their customer base, happy with their profit margins, they don't say to themselves, well, I'm going to go over to Harrison. I bet it's better over there. So we've got to create that scaffolding so that our businesses can feel that they are supported, that they have those good co-tenants, that their rent is fair, and more than anything, that they have constant foot traffic. Because this is a walkable downtown. This is not Route 50 where I'm going to hop in my car from Lowe's to Dollar General to Wendy's to Kroger. Ideally, I'm going to park my car once and I'm going to walk the downtown. First of all, what brought me downtown? And if there are no or insufficient daily needs, then I'm only going to come downtown occasionally. Well, you can't survive on the person who's just coming down occasionally because, what the heck, I'll run down into that cute little gift shop and I'll pick up a card, and I haven't been there for a month. You have to have regular traffic. It's part of what makes a coffee shop so important, and I think we're about to get a coffee shop on High Street. And I told Mr. Messmore this. I have a friend who works in a downtown Cincinnati office building, and in a Facebook post, meaning to be witty, he said, I used to have to take an elevator down 19 floors, walk across the lobby of my office building, which is about a block, walk out the door and walk down another block, and I was happy to do that to get a cup of coffee, and now I'm wondering if it isn't too far to go 19 steps to the kitchen, which is how we all are feeling in Corona world. But the most important point is he was willing to walk 3 blocks to get a break and a cup of coffee, and that's what coffee houses do. And all these, with due respect to Mr. Weldon and his cohort, all these lawyers need to get out of their offices and walk the streets and get a cup of coffee. Sir.
I saw Zach walking today.
Sir.
Didn't have any coffee.
Zach does all the walking. He's younger than me.
Oh,
We
Lord.
delegate the walking.
Oh, Lord. Dal, I'm old enough to be your grandmother. But if we had more along the street for them to walk to, and I keep using with Brian the example of a good wine store. I don't know if this is a wine drinking community, but most communities these days are. where's that good wine store where I could go to the butcher shop, I could pick something up, I could get a bottle of wine, I could do all that in one walk. And I might do that before I got in my car to go home. Somebody in one conversation commented on the fact that you have a lot of people who come into town to work and then leave without ever touching downtown. We're going to fix that. I've talked about the fact that the Hidden Valley folks don't apparently come downtown. We're going to fix that. We've got to make ourselves that place that is so appealing and so useful, because that's the combination. Route 50 is useful, but it's not appealing. How do we make ourselves both appealing and useful and get those folks downtown? And I'm going to go back to, this is a long march. This is not the work of 6 months, and it's especially not the work of 6 months in this era, when everybody's afraid to make a commitment, when borrowing is harder, when businesses are failing. Lawrenceburg has done a tremendous job of investing in its citizens and its businesses during this time, but it's tough right now. I mean, people are scared. They don't know. You know, restaurants are saying, well, what if they close me down again? And you're not a mask-wearing community, but that might change too, because this is a mean virus. So it's not to say that we're not going to get it done, but I don't want anybody to think that Main Street's going to look radically different in 3, 6, or even 9 months. But we will make it look different with time, and we will target our focus area, and we will march out from there, and we will give you the best recommendations and the best support that we can to bring this Main Street to the position that it should have as the county seat and the most important community in Dearborn County.
So what's your suggestion? I mean, well, I know you're looking right now, you don't know.
I
No
don't
more
have
than
any
we do.
suggestions yet, sir.
Yeah.
I don't, but I will.
But what directions we need to go?
I will.
That's
Trust
the reason
me.
we got you.
Yeah, no, I will.
Yeah.
And again, you have resource, and I don't want to be frivolous with your resource. I'm not a big fan of somebody coming in and saying, well, I don't have much of a plan, but just give me a bunch of money and I'm sure it'll all work out okay.
Right.
We don't endorse those people, but if we find somebody and they need something, I mean, Brian told me you're putting in a grease trap for somebody. That's a tremendously good investment, because it's the coffee shop, isn't it?
The actual Sugar Shack.
Right?
Sugar Shack, yeah. I mean, if we can get to secure the future of that business, that's really strong. We just need to be judicious in how we invest, but most communities do not have a body like this that has the capacity to invest. That's a tremendous asset for Lawrenceburg.
And I think to one of Lenny's points, your organization has done a lot of groundwork. You've read the research, you've read the reports we've produced. You know, right now they're in the 90-day exploratory phase.
Which is
which
probably,
could take-
because of Corona, is probably going to take 120, to be honest.
So there's going to be some additional time there, but I think, in my personal opinion, I don't, of course, speak for the entire redevelopment commission, but I would rather see that slow, steady, measured action taken rather than jumping into things too quickly. I think in the past, we've seen a lot of good money after bad money just be thrown around, and that's one of the things I know that this redevelopment commission wants to, you know, we're in complete agreement on that. We want to make sure that we're not just throwing money at issues. We want to make sure that we take the right approaches. So to do that, I think it does take some additional time so that we can get our ducks in a row.
It's kind of the ready, aim, fire versus ready, fire, aim approach. And we're going with ready, aim, fire because, again, our goal, and not all businesses last as long as I want them to, and even with the best plans in the world, some businesses don't work out the way we hope. But I want to stop that churn. It doesn't do us any good to have a shop that we invest in, and they stay as long as we're investing, and the minute we stop, they close their doors and go away. We wasted that investment because we weren't looking to get them for 3 or 6 months. We were looking to get them for 5 or 10 years. And it doesn't do any good to have a shop that we invest in that doesn't fit within our district. I think I used the example with Brian of, I worked in a different district at one point where somebody said, we really need a Kinko's. We just really need a Kinko's. And I thought, I don't have enough real estate to give you a Kinko's right now. It won't support the Framery. It won't support Strong's. It won't support Adams Arts. It won't support Blacklist. I mean, a Kinko's, I don't have enough real estate to give you a Kinko's. So I'm not going to recommend a Kinko's. Now, at another time, going forward, when we've gotten to a different phase of this, that might be just the business we want. But right now, we've got to figure out how to not just recruit new businesses, but support and retain our existing businesses, because we got a lot of good ones. And we got a lot of people who believe in Lawrenceburg.
There's a lot of great businesses in downtown Lawrenceburg. I think we could all echo that.
Yeah.
Brian and Kelly are staying in pretty close contact with Miss Norris and her organization, correct?
Yes.
So we are definitely trying to stay on top of it as best we can to make sure that we're.
He's a very mean boss.
Is he?
He's a very mean boss.
Yeah. Kathleen, I love the idea of the scaffolding. When will we start to see some framework for that
Well,
scaffolding?
you're going to see some recommendations probably in 45 days. And it's interesting, I am not a planner. As I think I've said before, my background, I ran performing arts companies for the first 30 years of my working life, which means I'm very focused on the branding side. I'm very focused on the experience side. I'm very focused on the story of the community. And I am one of the principal business recruiters. But I have a planning team that works on things like streetscaping and signage and wayfinding. And as an example, we were in the community about 2 weeks ago. And again, we've been in the community without really interacting it with that. We just wanted to be able to observe. And we were on Walnut Street. We were about to go to lunch down on the river. And my John Young, who's our planner, said, you know, the sun is directly overhead and there is absolutely no shade on Walnut Street at this hour and no tree cover, and it's really hot here. And that would not have occurred to me. I would have just thought, wow, I'm just really hot. But John immediately started to say, and the tree wells and the awnings and the, you know, and he's breaking it down how to make Walnut Street more congenial at that time of day, which is part of the scaffolding. Because when people choose to locate on main streets, those are almost always intuitive decisions. There's very little data driving the small business decision maker. He's not saying, I've looked at the economics. Hammerlink is a great example of this. Hammerlink fell in love with Lawrenceburg. They just came here and said, this is the coolest place we've ever been. Let's buy a building and start a business. I mean, no research, zero, except just that strong intuitive response to the community. That's how mom and pop businesses, small businesses, which are the ones we want, make their decisions. So if they're standing on Walnut Street and they're hot, that actually, on an intuitive level, is a problem. It's a problem for the shoppers too, because if they're uncomfortable, they won't quite think about why they're uncomfortable. They'll just think, okay, I'll just go someplace else. You know, so that's what a planner looks at. I look at the retail mix, I look at the brand, I look at the story of the community. But part of what our firm does is bring those two pieces together. So we do maps. Brian and I talked today about getting access to your GIS maps, and we look at property ownership, and we do all the conventional things, but then we do those things as well. So that, I mean, I have bored Brian to death by saying, and Guinevere as well, by saying this community does not announce its downtown from either direction out on Route 50. And by the time I get to your gateway, I'm just about to blow past. Well, that means that we are not encouraging people to visit our town, our downtown. It looks like the casino is our gateway. But the casino is not our downtown, and it's not even, frankly, the most interesting thing about our downtown. It may be the most remunerative, but it's far from the most interesting. So we gotta.
Just one of the things that kind of carries over, and it's good that we've got Justin here and Lenny, obviously, because council plays a big role in this idea of scaffolding.
You know, you talk about shade, then you have trees. You talk about parking, then you have parking spots. Our sidewalks, our streets, alleys, and curbs are second to none thanks to the investment that the city has made.
They are.
And one of the things that you'll see with the idea of scaffolding, especially with wayfinding, is that there's been some work done. There was actually a team that developed a wayfinding plan as part of the Civic Park project, and that was set aside, and it was determined not to make that investment at that time. But there have been plans for wayfinding for the city of Lawrenceburg. If you look at the Nickel Plate District, which is the entertainment district in Fishers, Indiana, you see exactly what Kathleen's talking about. And we took some field trips last year. We went to Lexington, last administration. Went to Lexington, went to Fishers to see, you know, what does that look like? And you go to a town like Fishers, which is Indiana's newest city, and you see that no matter where you go, you'll see a sign, or you'll see font, or you'll see a symbol that just instinctively lets you realize that you're in that entertainment district, but also draws you to where you need to go. So the entire downtown is set up in a way where it leads you to where you need to be. So for us, it leads you past the casino, or it leads you to the casino and then downtown, or leads you off of 50. And a lot of that work's already been done, and can be brought back up, and can be revised. So, and those are the things, and Guinevere actually, I was always jealous of one of the coolest things I thought Guinevere did in Aurora was just to simply repave the crosswalks in their downtown to this really cool brick, and it let you know, oh, I'm in a cool place. Like, you know when you drive to Aurora and you cross over those crosswalks, okay, there's something going on here.
But they also calm traffic. They're really important in terms of calming traffic, because your brain registers a different visual up ahead, and you subconsciously slow your car because you're not quite sure what that means. And I'm sure that Guinevere meant that traffic calming also. And it tells pedestrians where to cross, and pedestrians are much more likely to come to a downtown where you've done all these subconscious things to make them feel like it's their place. And she thinks like a planner. I have spent enough time with her now to know that she thinks like a planner.
That's why we stole her from
Yeah,
Aurora.
yeah.
So yeah, those are the kinds of things that you guys will be introduced to and make decisions on, besides, you know, the big projects. It's the little things too that are so critical.
And sometimes the little things actually matter more in term, or have the little thing, no, they don't matter more in the long term, but they have a tremendous impact in the short term. You have a lot of parking in your town, but you don't have any parking signage. So if I'm coming in from outside your community, which is what you want, because you want to attract more people to your downtown, and all your street parking is busy, because we're going to make our downtown busy enough that is going to be the case, now I don't know where to park. And people get hesitant about parking in the wrong place because ticketing and towing and all that sort of thing. So we might at a certain point say, okay, now's the moment when we really need to have some parking signage. It might not be one of our first 5 priorities, but it might go on the list that it's something that we have to do. Raised crosswalks, paved crosswalks, things that make pedestrians feel comfortable downtown, those are all important. That's part of that scaffolding. And you have done a tremendous amount of the infrastructure work. I mean, all the communities that I've driven through around here, nobody has done as much work as you have in improving the quality of your streets, your curbs, your alleys, your sidewalks. That's great. Now we got to populate them.
Does anybody have any additional questions for Kathleen? Brian, you've been quiet.
She's pretty much covered everything.
I mean, I love this stuff, and I love communities like this. So if you don't make me stop, I'll be here talking at 9 o'clock tonight. Ask Brian. But this is the work we do. We specialize in smaller communities, a lot of neighborhoods. We're working in Springfield, Ohio, at cities this size. And I think you have visionary leadership. You are visionary leaders. And we actually are working now to secure the future of our community by bringing in the people who will be our current citizens, but also our future citizens. That's why building the Flaherty and Collins, you know this, that's why building the Flaherty and Collins building is so important. We've got to capture those folks who will start here as renters, choose to live here because they like the assets of our community and its parks and its bike paths and its restaurants and its all kinds of things, but choose to move into this community because they love it and stay and raise their families here and buy the houses that folks are going to want to sell and continue to invest in our community. And that still is the millennials and the generation that comes after them. But the communities that do not make the kind of investment that you are making are going to struggle. Not every community can succeed, and it's the communities that self-select to move forward in the ways that you have chosen to do that are going to be the strong communities. So, shut me up.
Kathleen, thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely my pleasure. Truly, absolutely my pleasure.
I'm sure if anybody has any additional questions or they need more information,
I will get cards and I'll get them right back.
all right. Mr. Messmore, we have row house wall next on the
Yeah,
agenda.
let's, thank you, Kathleen. That was a much better explanation than I could have provided. We have spent quite a bit of time together, and I know she's done a tremendous amount of research, and, you know, a few things stand out along the way so far, and I think, you know, both an appealing and useful place and, you know, a destination, but a place that supports daily life 7 days a week. Because a lot of people will ask us, you know, why you invest, you know, why did you do a grease trap? I mean, the answer is almost always the same. It's, you know, we want to be appealing and we want to be useful to our citizens 7 days a week. We want to be a destination. We want to capture dollars from visitors that help bring tax base and generations, you know, into the future here in the community. So I do think that hearing from her and her perspective is a tremendous value to, you know, what we're feeling and knowing. And I'll step back just one more. It's just like the parking thing, and sometimes we get stuck in a paradigm, and, you know, and I know where I'm going to park. You know, I know where and, you know, so I drive down the street and there's a parking sign. I'm perfectly comfortable. But when I'm in Austin, Texas, driving around downtown Austin looking for a place to park, I'm looking for signs because I'm freaking trying to find a place to park because I don't want to get towed and those things. So I don't think we are, but, you know, as we move forward, we can't underestimate those kinds of quality of place things, those recognition things like in the Nickel Plate District that make people know where they're at and feel comfortable about where they're at. So there's a couple other things, but I will spare you those brilliant thoughts for the moment. But it has been, one more is, you know, for current businesses, this is certainly a retention and recruitment plan. I mean, we talked about co-tenants, things that support the businesses that we already have, things that amplify what they're selling or complement what they're selling. And I think, to Richard's point earlier, sometimes when they're doing this on our own and people bring an idea of community to our community, it may not have been the best to support itself and those surrounding shops in the community. So perhaps some of the reason for some of those failures, just not on purpose, but knowingly and willingly thoughtful enough to support the rest of the downtown community. So I'm good. Thank you,
It's
for
funny,
those.
though, Brian, that you're talking that, because we got family that come from Brookville, Milan, and they get down here and they're saying, hey, they're going downtown. They can't find a place to park, and they're riding around because they don't know where to go.
They don't know where to go.
And I'm trying to tell them streets. Well, they don't know where they. What are you talking about? It's like you
know,
said, you go somewhere, Texas, somewhere.
You know
they
where
don't
south
know.
is, right?
Somewhere north, east, and west. I think we had to educate you guys a little bit. You guys had it backwards a bit.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, those little things really, will make a
Goes
difference.
a long ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, back to row house wall. Well, is there anybody in here that hasn't heard of the row house wall? Okay.
I think I've heard of it.
Okay.
Might give a small refresher for our
It's
YouTube
like a
audience.
country song.
Yeah. So, the row house wall is the wall directly to the east of the stage, and it has been in disrepair for a number of years. We had planned at one point to repair the wall, and then the board decided that we would allow for a potential tenant to determine what that wall would look like and where those openings would be. So we stepped back from fixing the wall, kind of went through a process that didn't come to fulfillment. So what I'm recommending this evening, or asking the board this evening, is to take a preliminary concept drawing that we received in April of 2019. And the purpose of these concept drawings is for the replacement of the west exterior wall. There's design elements of this that are accurate enough that we could go out and obtain some budgetary estimates. So the wall is deteriorating, it's unattractive, and I think it's time to find out get some budgetary numbers on what it might take to get that wall replaced and stabilize that structure.
What's the lifespan on that wall as it sits right now? I mean, if we did nothing to it, how long is it going to sit there? And it's basically rotting, correct?
Yeah,
Is that
I
a
mean,
good
it's
characterization?
it's basically an interior wall on the exterior, and for those construction specialists in the room, I at least see one may be able to add some context to that. But it's an interior wall exposed to the exterior. It's crumbling, it's failing, and by the reports and the discussions that we've had, it appears that the best solution long-term is to remove and replace that wall and tie it back into the structure, so that there's stability in the structure. And I just don't think there's any harm in pursuing getting those budgetary estimates to see where we're at, and take a look back at our budget and see if it's something that we can move forward on or not. So far, marketing that property in that condition hasn't been successful. Any of the marketing or discussion we've had on that property has included assistance in restoration of that wall and tying in that structure. So, and the idea would be if it was a manageable number, that we would try to get into construction this fall and get it at least repaired, and then we can determine how to market that property once that wall's been repaired.
I'm looking for a motion to move forward with
Estimates?
the budget together.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
put that in a motion, and we move forward with getting that budget put together for the row house.
Do we have
Brian,
some-
is that a proposal from a contractor? Is that what we're looking
This
for?
is some work done from RC Engineering. We've used them a couple times. They are experts in historic renovation around the state. They have a great relationship with Indiana Landmarks, so they know primarily what's acceptable during their construction documents and design phase. They have had conversations, we have had conversations with Landmarks on this. I would
So are
also-
we just looking for them to update the outdated document,
I'm
or?
actually going to go out for bids,
Okay,
or,
Based on
but,
that.
yeah,
so we'll ask for 2 or 3?
yeah, at least.
So just so
Okay.
the people knows that we can't tear it down
Yeah.
because
That-
it's
Yeah, it's a
a
it's-
historical building.
That building is controlled by historic landmarks. Prior to the adoption of our own local historic board, Preservation Commission, that property was under the Indiana Landmarks, and they still have oversight of the use of that property. And yeah, it's tearing it down. It's kind of not really ever been on the table. although from a purely objective standpoint, it, you know, budgetary, for budget reasons, it could be on the list, but I don't think that that's the direction that we need to go.
We can save it, we'd definitely rather save it.
Yes.
We
Right.
have a motion on the floor. Does anybody have any additional questions for this? Do we have a second to the motion of allowing Brian to move forward with getting the cost estimates for the restoration of that
I'll s-
exterior west wall?
I'll second Brian's motion.
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I do have one other, oh, we're on old business now, aren't we?
Do you have any other new business?
No, it would be old business.
We'll conclude the new business then, if nobody else has anything additional for that. We'll move on to old business. Mr. Messmore, if you want to start with the Main Street report.
You
and then-
have the Main Street report in front of you. As always, this is because we invest in this program. It's important that we know how it's being utilized and where it's being utilized. I will point out that the residential paint and facade has been, let's see, where's my balance at?
It's 3,000.
Oh, it's back
There's-
here.
yeah.
I'm sorry. I knew I saw it. Has been the most used, and we have a balance of about $3,000 in residential paint and facade. Started at 65,000. We have 3,000 left, so therefore, a very small match project could be done at this time. I'm not recommending that we refund that residential paint and facade tonight, but I would like to open up to the board for consideration. I think we should take a look at, you know, budget and revenue. I think we've talked about, you know, not knowing for sure if our revenue streams for redevelopment specifically will be affected by stuff that's gone on with Hollywood and the convention center. So in absence of that defined answer, I would just like to recommend to the board that we maybe consider it and try to get enough budget information together by next meeting to determine whether or not we would want to put some additional funds in that specific project category for the remainder of the year.
Okay, Brian, just to level set, one person could come in, apply for that grant, and get the entire 3,000, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
What's our procedure for putting money back into that program? We can vote on that and place more money into that program, correct?
That's correct. We would take it out of what, NR, I don't know. Yes.
Yeah, we would be fine.
The
We have
authority
the,
to do that.
it's in our budget.
So in other words, the only thing I was worried about is there'd be people hanging around wanting to use that program, not have the ability to utilize it, but we would have the ability to move pretty quick
Yes.
if we decided we wanted to put more money into that program.
Yeah.
And we've probably seen an uptick on it, I would think, due to the COVID-19 situation. More people are at home, they're working on their homes, beautifying the neighborhoods, so I'd say that probably has something to do with it too.
I tell you what, it's a good program. I mean, obviously,
great
you've driven
program.
around town and seen the improvements we get before and after pictures. You know, there's
Neat.
been a lot of good work done to residential lots around the city and up on the hill.
So what you'd like to do at this point is get together, get some budget information ready, bring that back to us at the next meeting, and maybe be prepared
Yeah, I
to
just
move at
think,
that point.
you know, we were talking, you know, and I know, we're working on, it came out of that conversation, you know, revenue estimates for, you know, council's budget for next year, and, you know, we probably just ought to make sure that we know what's happening with, and we almost do, but we need to make sure.
Do you need a motion or anything formal from us to move
No.
forward with that?
No.
I don't think anybody would be opposed to that.
No, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to think about that program and ask questions, or go out and look around, or stop by Main Street and get some additional information prior to, you know, discussion on adding money to that fund, to that project.
Yeah, if y'all haven't, stopped down and talked to Michelle Cohn. She's a wealth of information. She's got all that knowledge there. We can access it. Definitely lets us know what's going on. Brian, did you have anything additional under old business?
Yeah, I would just, I know Dell maybe has something to add, but Low Miller Real Estate has obtained their certificate of occupancy, and so we had committed some money to them at that point in time, and I think Dell did some follow-up this afternoon with Low Miller.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Pleases the Redevelopment Commission. Andrew Miller sends his regards and his many thanks. The main takeaway from my meeting with him today was that this project would not have happened without the contribution of redevelopment. And if you've been by there, if you've seen it, it's really impressive and really beautifies and improves part of Route 50 that kind of sat in need of that for a long time. And so he definitely appreciates that, and I think we appreciate the ability to kind of keep a homegrown success story here. Low Miller's local, and I think we'd all be remiss and regretful if he would have put his kind of showcase headquarters somewhere other than Lawrenceburg. So it's really a win-win. The original project was for us to contribute $112,390, which is 10% of the total cost of the project. He actually exceeded that by quite a bit. He's at $1.25 million for that project. We've already paid one half of our $112,390 contribution, and we would pay the other half tomorrow. He's obtained a certificate of occupancy, and the requirements, this is really a 5-year commitment that Low Miller Real Estate has made to the community in terms of what they're bringing to Lawrenceburg, but the commitments that have kind of already been fulfilled, moving 2 of their divisions to Lawrenceburg. They've already done that. They've moved their contracting and their title bases to Lawrenceburg. They've added 8 to 10 new jobs, 5 to 6 new 1099 real estate agents. They've added 2 management positions at around $80,000 a year. They've added a contracting administrator and president of contracting department. They've added 4 crewmen. They've brought a title company to Lawrenceburg, and they're finishing up that process. It's called 360. They've hired a part-time finance bookkeeper and a full-time marketing person. They during the construction phase of this project, almost all the materials and labor were local and were purchased locally, and local persons were hired to work on the project. And moving forward, there's just a strong benefit to the surrounding area. They added a new 400 amp electrical service, and they also set up City of Lawrenceburg Fiber, so now they're really a hub for electrical power and for fiber because of the improvements they've made on that property. And moving forward, again, their commitment is really a 5-year process of adding more and more jobs, adding more and more departments, bringing them in from their various locations in Ohio and Kentucky to this new central headquarters. They're hoping for a July 30th ribbon cutting, but that's contingent on obviously the things that are happening with COVID-19. But Andrew Low Miller extends an invitation for the Redevelopment Commission, City Council, any members of the community to stop by and view the campus, and also to be there for the July 30th ribbon cutting. And those are, trying to see if I have anything else. One of the things that I thought was important as well, Mr. Messmore can talk about this a little bit too, is that really that entire area is now being developed, because also there's the facility next to it's being developed. An individual, Steve Caudell, is doing a project next door. So now you've got really from the bank all the way to Wendy's is now this beautiful engaged area, where, like I said before, it was Kelly's, which is nice, and Nugent's for a long time, but now we've got really brand new and a wonderful campus. So we would pay the second part of that payment tomorrow.
Do we need a motion to do that? That's just set in the books, correct?
Yeah, I think a motion for the record would be fine.
we get a motion to move
I'll
forward
make a
with the other
motion
half
for
of that
that.
payment?
Yes.
Lenny, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Brian, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And I just have one more brief report. So in April's not here, and we'll let her know, but obviously the grease trap has been installed at Sugar Shack. It was unbelievable. They dug the street up and put it back together, and you can't tell at all that they did that. But as per the wishes and desires of the board, Kristen Strong and the ownership and management at Sugar Shack has agreed to pay for their portion of that project, and they've already started making monthly payments. So I want to report back to the board and to council that that's happening.
Is he making the burgers over there yet?
His restaurant equipment is due in next week.
Oh, okay, so it's on
remainder
its
of it.
way.
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to Christian on Friday, trying to get a gauge on, there's a lot of anticipation.
All right. Somebody have any questions about that? All right. Do we have any other old business?
I would like to bring up the lots on West High Street that we have talked in the past about potentially putting on the market. I know there's some interest in the community. So Brian, should we put that on the agenda next month?
So to bring everybody up to date, we have 3 vacant lots on West High, which is the neighborhood down on the other side of the Historic Society. We have a closing scheduled for later this week on another one, so we would have 4 vacant lots in that community. And there has been some interest in those lots, by the way. That's very true.
How many lots are there total, Brian?
20 or 21.
21?
Yeah. So
I would like to
anyway,
see
the
that on the
question has
agenda
always
myself.
been, knowing that is a beautiful community and it has an opportunity to, to be, for some reinvestment, what's the appropriate number of lots that, we would want to, accumulate before we, turn those back over to the market, and under what conditions those would be turned back, and made available to the public. So, up to this point, and again, these lots, we didn't go out and try to find these lots. These were owners and or banks who came to us and said, hey, I understand you have a program. I might like to take advantage of it. Would you explain it to me? And in those cases, we were successful in the acquisition and the demolition. They were in that kind of shape. So, so what we would essentially be discussing, if I get the point of your question, is it time to basically put the, advertise those lots and then open it up to the public for development, and under what circumstances or what, development model or goals do we have in order to bring additional investment into that community, and hopefully investment beyond those lots into some of the other homes in that community. That's, yeah.
Yes, that's good. I just know there has been some interest, so I think we, as a commission, should address it.
Okay.
Kevin, thank you for that. Yeah.
Would
that on the
you
agenda.
actively pursue any of the other ones, or will we just go how we have been with people
Well,
approaching us? Or
Is
do
that a
we start-
discussion we can have at the meeting
Yeah.
coming up?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we can talk about whatever we'd like to talk about. I mean, I think, it's, the question always is, it might take 20 years to do what we're doing. And, is it better for the community to do something now, or a different strategy, which I think is what Kelly's alluding to. Up to this point, again, I've not been, pursuing, other than just responding to those requests from, private owners. So I think we have that same discussion.
That so we can just basically put everything on the table, have a discussion when we've got a full board here, and kind of gauge the reaction of how we want to move forward.
And just so, for the record, it would be important to say that all those have been at the average 2 appraisals.
Yes.
And if they were actively rented, that we can go back 1 year's rental in addition to the average 2 appraisals. One we were able to get from a bank for less than $25,000.
Which doesn't require the appraisals.
Which does not require. So, I mean,
Saves us a step.
you know, I think we should be, that's been our acquisition strategy. Basically, we're nearly bound to that.
I think there's also some low-hanging fruit in that area as well that potentially could be acquired pretty quickly, because as you guys do release them to be developed on, I think it's twofold here. One, you're gonna improve the area, and then others around, if they have a historical home which could be rehabilitated, they're gonna begin fixing those homes up. But also, I guess on the flip side of the coin is cost of the houses on that street are gonna start going up. You know, so the appraised values are gonna go up, so it's gonna cost a little bit more to acquire those. So yeah, it's good to get a few to kind of get some traction in the area, but I think getting some development moving forward would not be a bad thing.
No, I agree with Justin and Kevin on that. Development in that area would be great. I think if you get a couple in there, you start to bolster things up. Other people get the same mindset, get the same idea. Yeah.
Nice neighborhood.
I think it'd be a great neighborhood. Be close to Flaherty and Collins. If you're not familiar with this area, if you were to get on High Street right down here, if you were to hang a right and you go all the way down to the end of that, you'll come to almost a cul-de-sac, a great big cul-de-sac. And if you go in there, you'll see all the various homes that that little smaller community's been over here. I believe it's in your district, correct, Mr. Numbert? District 2?
No, it's District 1.
Is it 1? Okay, District 1. But yeah, if you get on High Street, you hang that right-hand turn right down here at the end of the street, you'll run right into those homes. So we'll get that on the agenda for next month. Do we have any additional old business to discuss? All right, if not, I will take a motion to approve the claims.
So moved.
Kevin, motions. Do we have a second? Second, Brian. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll entertain comments from the audience now. We have none. All right. If not, we will have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody.
John on our team was the arborist for the city of Bellevue, so he actually.
Decided there.
Yes,
Welcome.
that's another.
I know.
As you've seen, we've done some big plans over
Yeah.
the years, and there's not a lot of, execution.
Mark,
I just talked literally, stood here with the mayor today, and I said, Mayor, we need trees down the
John will love you. Tell me your name, sir.